Hello, everyone. This is Melinda Russell with Racing Girls Rock Podcast. And today's episode, I'm honored to have Marilyn Dash with me as my guest. I'm going to ask Marilyn to just tell us a little bit about herself, and you'll get to know her like I will as we record this podcast. So Marilyn, welcome to the show. And
Thank
if you
you.
would just tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, where you live, anything that you're comfortable sharing so we can get to know you a little better.
Yeah, I'm originally from the East Coast and moved out to California in 1991 and I was in the high-tech Silicon Valley area and working in management consulting, and got bit by a motorsport bug and ended up moving up to the northern Nevada, Reno. I live in the Reno Tahoe area right now, and it's beautiful summer spring day here, and we love it. My husband is up here with me. We have 4 rescued cats and 1 rescued dog who is my assistant, who's always in my office with me. And you may hear her bark if the doorbell rings. She's the alert society around here.
That's okay. You know, I've had dogs bark. I've had cats jump up on keyboards, all kinds of things. And we just go right on. So it's just fine. So Marilyn, tell me a little bit about yourself as a little girl. What were you like as a little girl?
I remember someone asked me when I was 9 years old what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I said, I want to be the statistician to the New York Yankees. And it never stopped from there. And I was always a big sports fan: Yankees, Giants, Jets, Knicks, Mets, whatever it was, hockey, basketball, football, everything. And at some point in my life, I switched over to motorsport. And but my dad actually built us a little go-kart track when I was real little, and it kind of got me. So it never stopped from there.
It absolutely gets in your blood.
It does.
We know that to be a fact, because everybody you talk to that loves racing will tell you the same thing, that it gets in your blood. And so I love all kinds of sports as well. I'm a big football fan, as far as and especially college sports, but nothing replaces racing. So we're together on that. So you got interested in racing. You went on a go-kart track as a little kid. So tell us a little bit about how you're involved in racing now, and how did you get there?
Well, it's an interesting story. So on my 37th birthday, I had started working at a local aviation museum called Hiller Aviation Museum in San Carlos, California. And I was volunteering there and working with Mr. Hiller, who's the namesake of the museum. And he kept bugging me about getting my pilot's license. I'm like, oh, one of these days. And on my 37th birthday, he was like, today is one of these days, let's go. And I walked over to the local flight school and started getting my pilot certifications. Then a woman who owned my flight school at the time, her husband raced at the Reno Air Races, the national championship air races in the Reno, Nevada area, which is where I live now. And from that moment to the time I started racing was less than 4 years.
Wow.
It went pretty quickly, but I sat in the stands that first day and went, I want to do that. And that's all it took. And so now I've been involved in air racing now since 2003 was when I started racing. And I raced in the biplane class. Right now we have 7 classes: International Formula One, biplanes, T6, Sport, Jets, Unlimited, and what we call stole drags, which are super interesting. And I'll give you some websites that you could share with people so they could see some of the videos, etc. But I was in the biplane class for 15 years. And since then, I have started doing the announcing. We do a live feed. So I do the announcing from the races, either in person there or on the live feed that goes over to the TV and computers and things. So people all over the world know my voice, and which is a funny story I'll get to later. And then I also am on the board of directors for the International Formula One, and we're trying to expand air racing beyond just the Reno area. We have done races in Tunisia, Spain, China, Thailand, and the USA in the past, I think it's 7 years. And we're working on putting together an entire 12 location circuit coming up the next couple of years. So, and these are, they're the little ones. It's the midgets. They're 100 horsepower, tiny little airplanes. All of them come apart. Their wings come off. We can shove them in containers and ship them anywhere in the world, which makes them so convenient. And one of the reasons why I chose to start working with IF1 and help them. So we have a race in September in Reno, and then we have another race in October in a place called San Angelo, Texas, right outside of Lubbock and Midland.
So I want to ask you about those planes that come apart. They
Not
obviously are
on purpose.
Yeah, exactly. Purpose. But what I'm concerned about is when they get put back together.
Yeah, we haven't had a problem with that.
Yeah, making sure that whoever's doing that is somebody I trust, because I don't want to get up in a plane put together by some sketchy person. So they must be easy to put together.
Yes, in fact, we have a very thorough tech inspections that go on prior to the races. Everything is, it's the most structured organization I've been part of when it comes to racing. So there's bylaws and procedures and technical rules, and we have tech inspectors and this, and I mean, everything is very, it's international Formula One. So there's a formula very much like the car formula. Okay. So everybody has like a formula of how big the wing can be, how big the cylinders can be, how big the engine can be. So everything is part of this formula, and it's very competitive and very fun. So crazy competitive.
So when you say competitive, is it more the skill of the pilot, or are you able to soup up your plane at all, or they are all pretty much exactly the same?
Everyone is souped up to the nines. What I find is when someone first gets involved with air racing, they'll start out pretty slow and they'll buy like a standard, a pretty stock aircraft. And then they'll start getting more. It happened to me. My first year, I think I did 146 miles an hour my first year, average speed. And my last year, I think I did 193. So I got a little better. The airplane got a lot faster, and it's quantum dollars. You know, it's just how many dollars you want to put into it that makes yourself faster. But I find that as people stay in the sport, they learn more, and then they start investing more, et cetera. And that's how it evolves for them. But we have a pretty good group of, I'd say we have about 24 to 30 pilots right now who are very active, and we can put together an air race pretty much anywhere in Canada or the United States and get a good group.
Yeah, that's exciting. So I ran across some airplane racing. I think my husband actually found it like on YouTube or somewhere, and he had shown it to me. But at the time, whatever group that was, they weren't doing those anymore, like the racing or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so we never were, and I was super interested because as a 16-year-old girl, my dad had a 4-seat Cessna 182 airplane.
Oh, great.
And my mom wasn't crazy about flying. My dad was a farmer. My mom wasn't crazy about flying, but I loved it. And so I started to take flying lessons, and I actually learned how to take off and land, and I soloed. And then through some things where I was taking the classes, the teacher left and the school shut down. So I never went any farther with it, but at least I did that much. And if something would have happened to my dad, I could have landed the plane, and my mom felt a lot better about that. But so I kind of have that airplane thing in my background.
Yep.
So I'd love to come and watch. So tell me a little bit about where can we find like schedules and all that kind of thing, because even if you don't want to actually race, it'd be really cool to go watch. So yes. How would I find out about that?
There's plenty of videos on YouTube as well, but the Reno air races are the ones that are coming up in September, and that air race would be airrace.org would be their website, and you could learn how to get tickets. You can read up on the 7 now classes that we have, and you could look at some photos and etc. You could also go to YouTube and look for International Formula One or IF1. And that one you could see. You could Google me. There's a couple of videos of me in my biplane racing. And there's also let's see, I used to have a blog called The Pylon Place. I wrote for a magazine called In Flight USA, and I put all my columns on the Pylon Place. So if you Google Pylon Place, you could find it as well.
Okay, so
Some
there's
old columns. But yeah,
okay.
there's a lot of stuff out there. One of the new classes is called the Stole Drags, and it's the big tire boys. And what they do is they take off, and then they don't get very high on the ground, and then they land, stop, turn around, and come back and do the same thing. And it's just mesmerizing. You can't keep your eyes off of it. And it's so interesting, and it involves the crowd, and it's so much fun. And that's the newest group that we have at the Reno Air Races. And they've been accredited by the FAA. Like, I'm working with the FAA on getting International Formula One accredited as well, so we could start putting on races again. And it's just so much fun to see these people evolve aviation. One of the reasons I love air racing and racing in all ways is how we expand technology through racing, how racing has built on things, how the cars get safer, they get faster, they get safer, they get faster, they get lighter, they get safer, they get faster. And all because of racing and trial and error. And let's see how this works. Looking at Formula One with the way that they do the kinetic energy and having that run back into the engine. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And how much, they don't have to refuel anymore because they're so much lighter and all these. So
Right.
Let's start learning from racing and aviation too. And let's make aviation safer and faster and better for everyone.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I'm definitely going to Google that, because my husband was also interested in, like going somewhere to watch. So that's just so cool. And, you don't hear a lot about it. So, how can we, or I as IWMA, or, how can I help get the word out about your races and where they are and everything? I know, where I'm interviewing you, but, do you have a Facebook page?
Yes.
Instagram? Tell us about that.
On Facebook, we are International Formula One. I think it's there's a fan page that's called Fan Page. Then there's the Reno Air Races, and there's a group called the Reno Air Race Fan Group, because we can't be the Reno Air Races group because they have that. And then I don't know if we have Twitter or anything, but there's a lot on YouTube. So what I'll do is after we finish up today, I'll send you a bunch of links, and you can put them on your website too. And then I could give you some dates. But I would love for you guys to come out and join us in the pits. Because one of the best things about racing, I think, is that you have access to, I've gone to the NHRA events. I've been to NASCAR. I've been in the pits. I've been in the pits during the racing, etc. I've been at Indy. I've been in the pits in Indy. So all these wonderful things, but you get so close to you don't get to go on the field in baseball. You don't get to get on the court in basketball. No. But I can stand right next to John Force while he's looking at his car and chit chat with him. I mean, Ron Capps, I have a bunch of hats from him. I've met Denny Hamlin. I've met, all these people you get to stand next to and chat with.
Right.
They're not stars that are, 100 feet away. They're standing right next to you.
Well, they're very, very accessible. Racing is a very accessible sport. And I just had this conversation in a podcast I did a few days ago about how many sports do you get to talk to the quarterback or the center or the pitcher
or the coach
when NASCAR, they're taking their last lap before the race starts and they're talking to the guy on the pole.
I know. Isn't that great?
We have a sport that is so people friendly and it just gets better, and these tracks are putting in fan experiences. They're setting up events for that. In fact, that's one of the things I'm working on. Last year, we were supposed to have quite a number of events at NASCAR tracks and other tracks. But of course, good old COVID shut us down. So now we have to start all over with the planning and the everything, but it'll happen. And, one of my goals is to let women know that racing is for women too. And it's not just something your husband can enjoy. And we want to get women to the tracks or to the airport.
I agree.
Because once we do, we know that they're going to be hooked, aren't they?
Absolutely. In fact, I talk to young girls and Girl Scout organizations or high schools and younger. And one of the things that I bring up to them is, when I was 37 years old when I got my pilot's license, and when I bought my first airplane, and that was the first time I learned righty tighty, lefty loosey. I mean, no one ever told me this before.
Right.
And it was like, all of a sudden the sky opened up, and now I understood things better.
Mhm.
So I learned how to change the oil in my plane and change my spark plugs and pack my bearings. It was disgusting, but I did it because I thought it would make me more knowledgeable about my racer. And I think that's one of the steps that women need to take.
Yeah.
I have a meme that I saw that it's like a girl's magazine versus a boys life versus girls life. And it was like dolls and makeup and blah, blah, blah. And boys were mechanical this and make your own computer. And we need to mesh, we need to do a little make your own computer and learn mechanical things for women too. Yes. So I wish that, maybe shop classes came back and girls weren't afraid or turned off by it because it's valuable no matter what. Knowing how to change your tire could save your life. It's not a bad thing. No. So I just wish that it didn't have this dirty connotation, like, oh, I'm going to get my hands dirty. Like I get my nails done. Your nails look beautiful. We could still have beautiful nails, right, and still be able to maintain our engines, and our mechanical things.
It's funny you said about shop, because when I was in high school, I graduated in 1974. I'm 65 years old. I'm not afraid to tell anybody. But we had
I'm right behind you, girl.
So we had a semester of welding, a semester of where we had wood and we built birdhouses or whatever. And a semester of mechanical, like changing your tire, changing your oil. And those were really life lessons.
I totally agree.
And I had really long hair at the time, and I will never forget. And it's funny because my current husband, he's my second husband, is a welder. But when I did the welding class, I had really long hair and my hair fell down and I could smell something burning and my hair was melting. And so I had to have my hair cut. I'll never forget it. It's like it was yesterday. I was a freshman in high school, but we don't offer that for our girls or encourage them as much, where I love seeing girls interviewed on TV or whatever that say, I want to be a scientist, I want to be an astronaut, I want to be a whatever, that are things that are typically men jobs. In the past, in the 70s, it would have been a guy job. A woman wouldn't have ever thought about doing some of these things. And now you go to the racetrack and there are women driving, there's women tire changers, there's women doing every kind of job.
Right.
And that's why I love these podcasts, because women are doing things that are out of the norm. And it's encouraging to, especially younger women who are still not sure what they want to do. And they see Marilyn Dash is racing an airplane. Oh my gosh. I want to.
I still have big hair and I still have pretty nails. But you could you could do anything.
You can do anything. So tell us about your airplane.
So what I was going to tell you a quick story is that this organization would bring in, the National Air Racing Organization would bring in these young kids, elementary and middle school kids, and the teachers would come up with a questionnaire and they would have to go up to everyone and ask them questions to get them to talk to the pilots and the crews and ask them questions about the planes. And whoever answered all the girls that were there, whoever answered the most questions, I would give them an aviator Barbie. So it was either a Air Force Barbie or a barnstorming Barbie, but it was an aviation or an astronaut Barbie, Thunderbird Barbie. So some kind of a Barbie doll that was aviation themed. And someone who was over in Germany, and they found him in the PX there, and he used to ship them back for me because they were hard to find here in the States. But I had a whole box of them and I gave them out to little girls all the time. And I'm like, tell me that you want to be a pilot. Tell me you want to be an engineer. Tell me you want to be a race car driver, and you get a free doll, But I wanted them to know that you don't have to just be pretty Barbie. You could be pretty
Right.
Barbie and have a function too.
Well,
So
and back when I was a little girl and I had the original Barbie, which I wish I still had, but there weren't all those occupation Barbies
right.
like have been in the last, like my daughters are in their 30s, and even my oldest daughter who's in her 40s, they had those like, nurse Barbie and Dr. Barbie, and they started coming
Teacher
out with all
Barbie.
those. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I've never seen any of the aviation ones. Those would be awesome. I'm gonna have to Google and see if I can find one
Yeah,
of
they're
those.
really cool. You'll probably find some on eBay once in a while.
Yeah.
But so my race plane was a Pitts Special, Pitts Pitts Special S1S, and it was it's a biplane, single seat, 360 horsepower, little red darling. I'll send you a picture of it. And like I said, she started going from 146 miles an hour to 190. Let's say 193. I think was my top speed. And I started out my first year, I had a young kid from the airport kind of helping me out. By the time I left, at racing, I had a wonderful crew that worked so hard for me year round. They're dedicated, they're friends forever. I know their wives and families and everything now, but we all kind of grew together and learned together how to make my airplane faster and things. And it was just and they've just been awesome to me over the years, and vice versa. I've done some great things for them as well. So I mentioned to you prior to us getting on the call that I met Jack Roush through air racing. He's, he has a P-51 Mustang. So he was making parts for the Mustangs there, and he would come to the Reno air races, and I got to know him quite well. And he would invite us to come to some of the races. And I invited my crew to come to the races with me and sit in the pits. And they're like, we love you for the access. I mean, how would they have ever gotten in the pits of a NASCAR
Right.
race in Phoenix or at Sears Point or something like that? So
Yeah.
we do what we do.
Exactly. And my husband and I tend to love sitting in the pits in the infield to watch the races. In Daytona, we have sat in the grandstand, but we won't probably ever sit in the grandstand again, because after sitting in the infield, you've got a huge screen, and yet you can look either direction and see the race cars. You can smell everything, you can hear everything, but you have a huge screen, you have all the replays and all that.
Yep.
And then you have the fun of all the people in the infield.
Yep.
And so
we had
I absolutely love the infield for
I liked Sears Point because it was the road course, so it was so different. And then we went to Phoenix one year, and it's the shortest course I've ever seen. It's probably not the shortest in NASCAR, of course, but it was like, there he is. But it was so short that we were like, wow, this is such a tiny course. So we enjoyed that one. And I met some other women there that go to air races all over the country together. And one lives in upstate New York, the other one lives in Arizona, and they just meet and go to these races together. And they're so much fun. So I've had such a great time getting to know people at the races, and you just talk to everyone because you have something so in common.
Right.
And the air racing for me, I have like a whole new, we call ourselves the September family. I have a whole new group of people that I never would have met before.
Right.
Without air racing, I never would have met Jack. Without air racing, I would have not met 1,000 of my friends, that I'm so close with now. It's really changed my life in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Oh, it absolutely does. I can't even begin to list, and you included, the number of women that I have met that have amazing stories. And you wouldn't think that just doing a podcast makes you friends, but it really does.
It does.
And then you're like, oh, hey, Melinda, I'm going to be at the race in Phoenix. I'm pretty much always at the race in Phoenix because we're there in the winter, and my daughters live there. And so it's always a good excuse to go to Phoenix. And Phoenix has done amazing things with their infield. I don't know how long ago you were there, but I absolutely love going to Phoenix. It's one of my favorite tracks. There's a lot of tracks I haven't been to yet, but they're on my bucket list.
I have to say the worst part about Phoenix track was the parking.
Yeah.
That's the worst part about a lot of these tracks. Indy was terrible with parking too.
It is, but I think it's a lot better. I mean, I don't, because of my back and everything, I don't like to walk really, really far, and I have arthritis in my knee. I'm getting old, but it's not as bad as it used to be. And they've just done so many good things, now this year, not so much. They used to have what they call the joy ride, the little golf carts, and they'd pick you up and take you. And of course, in 2020, there was none of that because of our germs, but it'll be back. And we'll be able to park wherever and go wherever we want to go. And I absolutely love the people that I've met
Agreed.
through racing and through the IWMA. So I'm going to ask you a nosy question. You don't have to give me the exact dollar, but what does an airplane like yours cost?
Very interesting question. So the one I raised, I bought for 35,000.
Oh,
and probably put in probably about between 5 and 10,000 in increments every couple of years.
yeah.
The Formula One, the International Formula One that I am working with now, you could probably get one for about 25. And then, an engine would be another, 10, 15, 20,000. My engine would be about 35 for a new one. And then you go all the way up to the top, the unlimiteds are your World War II modifieds. And they're Strega, Voodoo, Rare Bear. These are some of the big names in the unlimited air racing. And they're several $1 million,
Yeah.
and their engines are like $750,000 for a stocker, not including all the bells and whistles that you need to make it a fast airplane. So that's why I'm in here an entry level. And I think entry level is fun.
Yeah.
That's where you get a lot of experience and have a lot of fun, good time there. So when you start getting into that serious money, it starts becoming harder.
Serious.
A lot harder. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and then we have a jet class now that's they're crazy fast. And we have L-39s and L-29s, which are Czechoslovakian trainer jets. And then we have Vampires, which are British jets. So there's all sorts of funky jets that you've never seen before that you get to see at these races. And
Wow.
a lot of we're trying to get kids involved too.
Yeah.
Because even you've probably seen even in NASCAR that the numbers are going down because kids rather sit home and play drones than go outside and actually watch a race.
Yeah.
So, we're finding the same thing.
Hey,
so we're trying to get
adults are the same way. Adults would rather sit at home and watch it on TV, a lot of them too, because and here's my biggest complaint with going to the races. I don't mind paying for the ticket in to go or the weekend pass. Like I said, I upgrade and go to the infield. I don't mind paying for any of that. I don't mind paying to drive or fly there. But when they jack the hotel prices up, $200, $300, $400. So I'm gonna write NASCAR a letter and say, you need to buy some hotel chains, or you need a hotel chain that you don't need to gouge, because I think that's part of why people don't go, because
it is pretty nasty.
It's so expensive to stay in a hotel.
I agree. And then, experiencing trying to get go to a restaurant during a big NASCAR weekend or in Indy or something like that.
Right.
I mean, it's just crazy trying to get into any restaurant at all. I know when NASCAR is in town and Sonoma, we just all stayed home.
Right.
Rather than you can't even go to Burger King on a weekend when NASCAR's in town. And there's just brings so many fans. It's just, we're not able to handle that influx.
Well, and this weekend, we're recording this on a Wednesday, and this weekend is the Indy 500. And so, I have cousins that live down there, and I say Carmel, other people say other things. And, they live in, my other cousin lives in Greenwood. So it's all these little towns around. And it's crazy there, but it helps their economy. It's a big deal. And, if you don't mind waiting in line to park and all that, I mean, it's an experience. It's something everybody should do at least once.
Yeah, we went to the 100-year anniversary of Indy, and we got the close-up parking. We paid for extra parking and all that and all.
Yeah.
But it was a once in a lifetime experience. It was just so great.
Yeah. So I'm sitting here thinking, okay, I know what road courses look like. Of course, we were just on a road course that was nastily flooded with rain. Big controversy all week on podcasts. That's all they've been talking about. And then there's circle tracks and there's drag strips. What does a course look like in an airplane race?
So most the courses look very similar to a NASCAR track, and there will be 8 or 9 of us on a track at the same time. So for the Formula and the biplanes, we have the smallest track. It's about 3.2 miles, and it's has 6 pylons, 3 on each side, and it's basically an oval. The difference is we all start on the ground, and some crazy person throws a flag down, and we all go for pylon 1. And we have a giant, there's our flag guy, because there's got to be a flag, right? There's got to be a green flag, a white flag, and a checker flag. And we have a giant human being who's the sweetest man in the world. His name is Dale, and he's our flag guy. And his flags are about 8 feet tall. So you could see him from the sky. And we call in and get our qualifying times, and we hear it on the radio, white flag, so you know you have 1 lap left. So it's all very similar to a NASCAR track, except there's 8 of us on the track, and we're in the air.
Okay.
And passing is on the outside only. You have to keep someone in sight, so we don't rub-ins racing, except in air racing.
Yeah,
So,
wouldn't be good in an airplane to be
right.
rubbing.
And then for the other classes, for the larger classes, the T6, the sports, the unlimited, and the jets, they have bigger courses. They're not ovals exactly. They're kind of oblongish circular tracks.
Okay.
But it's basically the same thing. The pylons are 50-foot telephone poles with 55-gallon drums on top, and they're painted different colors. So we know which pylons are ours and which pylons are theirs.
Okay.
It's makes perfect sense to us.
I mean, it makes perfect sense to me because I've actually seen a planes race, so I kind of do, but people who haven't seen it wouldn't have a clue.
Yeah, they'd probably question my sanity too.
Yeah, right.
Don't tell.
Yeah.
I have a T-shirt that says, "Don't tell my mother I'm an air racer. She thinks I play the piano in a brothel." So.
I love it.
But one of the things I love about racing too is the T-shirts. You get the most amazing T-shirts. I didn't want to tell my mother I was drag racing, so I told her I was in prison. I mean, things like that are just hilarious.
Yeah.
With enough horsepower, anything will fly, and the pig will fly just fine, or something like that.
Yeah.
Just the T-shirts I've seen in especially NHRA, they usually have the funniest T-shirts there.
They do. They have.
But
I mean,
just
you can
enjoyable.
You can find amazing shirts pretty much in any kind of racing, but yeah, we
have them too.
There. Yeah, absolutely. So
I have one that says, I fly. What's your superpower? So.
Oh yeah, I like that one. Yeah. So what's how many women are you kind of? I'm obviously probably the minority.
So I actually do a presentation. Yeah, not that many, but I was number 17 that raced at the Reno Air Races, and I think we're up to 27 now that have raced since 1964. The Reno Air Race has been going on since 1964. The first woman who ever raced was a woman named Connie Marsh. Connie was about 92 pounds, 5 foot tall, tiny itty bitty thing. When she showed up to race, they weighed her and said she had to add ballast to her plane because she was so tiny.
Oh, really?
Yep. And some of the other guys were not as beefy either, but they got away with it because they put coins in their pockets and things and weighed themselves down when they got weighed. So, but yeah, so she was the first woman who ever crossed that line and actually became an air racer. But I do a whole presentation on it about who the women were, where they came from, and where they went after. It's fascinating. There's a woman named Bonnie Warner. She was a bobsled racer. Do you remember her that name? Many years ago, she was in the Olympics. She took her winnings from the Olympics and became a pilot. And then she ended up flying, I believe, for United Airlines, but she also became an air racer. Really? Because that competitive spirit is perfect for this.
It is.
But now we probably have more women now racing in the air races than ever before. Yeah. And it's just, it's so nice to see that I'm not the only one out there by myself. And, my first year, they bought a carton of hairspray and put it underneath my plane. And, they would tease me all the time. And I'm like, your guys got to try harder than this. I'm from New York,
Yeah, exactly.
You can't fluster me. So, but they tried.
They tried.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not 16 anymore, but you've had a lot of impact, I would assume, in not only racing, but in airplane racing. What do you think has been your biggest impact? Or if not yet, what do you want your legacy to be when you're all done and you're sitting in your rocking chair?
I think the women who don't make it are the ones that walk around going, but I'm a woman. I'm special. I'm a woman. And I walked around and said, don't treat me any different than you do him.
Good for
Treat me
you.
don't treat me better, but don't treat me worse. Just treat me the same and we'll get along fine. And I think if we all did that,
Yeah.
we'd all get along much better. I don't think anyone ever said to me that I traded on being, I call it a chick. Because I used to have chicks fly too on my license plate when I was in California. So, but I'm like, don't treat me like a chick. Just treat me like a racer. Just treat me like a pilot.
I hear that honestly quite a bit, probably more than anything. I hear that from girls that say, once I put the helmet on, I get in the car, I'm just a race car driver.
Right.
And that's the way it should be. And, I mentioned to you my granddaughter's race, and my youngest granddaughter just turned 16, but she's been racing on and off for a while. And the hardest thing it's not hard for her. She gets out there and just says, get out of my way, here I come. But the guys, there's some men that have a really hard time getting beat by a now 16-year-old girl.
And that's their problem, not hers.
And they want to run her into the concrete wall. And I just, and they're old enough to be her grandpa, some of them. And you just want to say, encourage the kids. Yeah. I don't care if they're male or female, but don't be running them into the wall because she's a girl.
Doesn't make sense.
Don't want to get beat by a girl. But
one of the things that I find so interesting is I get along so well with my competitors' wives and families and moms, and I've kind of coveted those relationships too, because, I don't want to just hang out with the guys all the time.
No.
So one of my crew dudes, his wife and I are very, very close. And I see her and I see him separately. And then we see, and then we do coupley things together with my husband and her husband.
Yeah.
But it's just so much fun to have, I spend all weekend at an airport, or all week. I spend weeks and weeks at airports during a year. And it's so nice to be able to go and do girl things with them.
Yeah.
Let's go have a glass of wine.
Right. Exactly.
The guys are going for beers and wings, but let's go have a glass of wine somewhere. So
yeah, I love that, nice. And that's just, it's the best of both worlds.
Yes.
You get to race and do the things that you want to do, and you still get to be, have a glass of wine and get your nails done. Right.
But I also don't want them to feel threatened by me having a weird relationship with their husband. So for example, this woman's husband is my mechanic, and he is super dedicated to me, super dedicated to my airplanes. He is just one of the most amazing human beings in the world. I spend weeks with this man in a year. I don't want her to think, why is she spending so much time with my husband?
Yeah.
So I make her feel comfortable, like, hi, I'm not a threat.
Yeah.
Let's all go do stuff. So,
right. And that's,
I think
that's a great, that's a great attitude to have. Not only you realizing that some women might feel that way, but now you've just got that many more friends.
Exactly.
And when
they multiply.
Yeah, they do. They just multiply, and it's amazing. So, man, I've really enjoyed talking to you.
Me too.
What have I not asked you about, or not, we haven't talked about that we should have, or what would you like to share that I haven't asked you about?
I think that, you mentioned that you're getting a little bit older too, and I'm hitting that as well. And I'd be able to use the skills that I have, and my promotional skills, my writing skills, my management skills, my executive level type skills that I got through years in management consulting. And that's why I'm trying to give back to the sport that gave me so much. And that's why I'm doing all of this, working with at the board level, and working with coordinating these other races. So funny, I'll tell you one more quick funny story. We actually did a race in November of 2018 in Wuhan, China.
Really?
We had a huge air show and an air race there, and they had just opened up the Wuhan airport. And I could tell you stories for a week about this experience. We were there for 2 weeks, and on one side of the river was this municipal kind of aviation center, and on the other side was a military base. And they said, okay, so when you're flying on the backside of the course, just stay on this side of the river. We're like, okay, so what happens if they stray on the other side? And they'll shoot you down. Okay, so everybody got that? Like you're in the briefing and you're like, okay. And you think to yourself, they probably would shoot me down. So, but it was the worst weather I've ever had at any aviation event in my life. We were grounded for most of it because the weather was so poor, but there were people from all over the world. And because I used to be involved in the aerobatic community and the world aerobatic community. So I knew the teams from Australia and the people from Canada and the people from Italy and all these other teams that were there. So we had the best time. They thought we were crazy. We thought they were crazy. And we all stayed at the same hotel. No one spoke English. It was great. So we all had each other, and it was pouring rain every day.
Well,
but
at least
now you know someone who's been to Wuhan, China.
Well, I'm glad that COVID wasn't going on then, because
it was 1 year before. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Isn't that kind of like, you look back and you just think deja vu or something? It's funny that you were there. Funny, not funny.
I know. As soon as they started saying it, I'm like, who ever heard the word Wuhan before?
Nobody, but now everybody
all of us
knows.
have been there. And I have a lot of my racing gear has Wuhan, China on the back.
Yeah.
I don't wear it right now.
No, I wouldn't
wear it some other time. But yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like something that you want to keep for later as memorabilia.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we had a lot of fun. We traveled great together. We're like one big ugly family.
Yeah. So does your husband go along?
He has not. He's a skier, a mountain biker. Okay. He does he's got like his own crazy things. We share the dog. So I'm allowed to keep her some days and he gets her the other days. But he has his own sports. He comes to the Reno area with me. He went to an Ely event that we had in Eastern Nevada. He's gone to a couple NASCAR races. So he'll go to some things. But if on the weekend, do you think he would rather sit in a lawn chair, watch me do something, or go climb a mountain?
Oh, absolutely. Go do his own thing. And
that, and we're so good about that.
Like my husband has a dirt bike. And so I'm not interested in that. He goes, when we're in Arizona, he goes rides the dirt bike, and I go see my grandbabies.
So Joe just got an e-bike. It's a electric dirt bike called a Suron that he is just loving. And he goes out on the dirt tracks out here. We have a lot of BLM land out here. And he'll take the dog out for a run and on his and he just loves it. So this is his first motorized bike experience. Usually he's a mountain biker.
Okay.
But he's getting older too.
Well, we all, you just have to change a little bit.
Modify. Yes.
Yeah. Marilyn, I really.
We could go on forever, couldn't we?
We could probably talk, I think we've become fast friends.
Absolutely.
Through this podcast. But any last words or anything else that you would like to share before we conclude?
Just to kind of round up, I think encouraging young girls, encouraging them to learn mechanics and things. I would love to learn how to weld. I think it's artwork. Yeah. I just think it's amazing. I think that we should get girls more involved in it, get women more involved in it, get rid of the stigma that's attached to it, and let it be fun. Right. Let them have some fun with it. And some of them will love it and some of them won't, but who cares? The ones that do, bring them along.
Right. I totally agree with you. And I love seeing girls at the track, like my friend Liz is a tire specialist for NASCAR, and she's a tiny thing and she throws those tires around like nothing. And, just to see those young gals who have such a passion for something that you just, years and years, when I was in high school, you would have never thought about being involved in racing in any capacity. And now it's more common all the time. And I love seeing that. So
I do too.
Yeah.
I do. This weekend, I do a indie trivia thing, and I love doing the one about who's the first woman, how many women have, and just try to get a little bit of that in there. And I'm not like some crazy woman who just pushes women all the time. I just love the sport, but I think it's interesting that we should honor and support the women who have come before us and the ones that are coming behind us too.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not a woman's liver at all, but I always felt like the women didn't really get the recognition in some ways that they deserved. And also, they were treated differently, or, like, oh, well, you're into racing because guys look cute in their race suits and that, no, they're there for a reason. And it's not because guys look cute in their race suits. And so I just wanted a chance to celebrate women who they're not famous. They're not Danica Patrick. They're never going to be that, but they have such great stories, just like yours. Great stories, great encouragement for other people. And that's why I do this. And I
love it.
Absolutely love it. So
that's great. I will see you. I'll send you a couple of things that you can add to your, and keep in touch. Let's do this again sometime.
Thank you.
Okay. Take care.